Hey guys, my name is Riv1 Games. I run a faction, Delta Force faction. It is called Troop C1, and this is my open world loadout that I like to run. Some things can change from time to time, but this is my general loadout I usually run. So starting off with the guns, I usually run an RF416A5. Then I make everything roll 8000, and then I use the Cuff Plus stock, the UMR 416 stock. This is more of a modern loadout, and then a SOCOM 556 RC, that's tan, and then an M600U and PEC 15 on top, and then I also run an SRD on the side. This is how I run most of my rifle setups, like these three attachments together. And then I run the Maritime mag because I don't really like the poly mag look. And then sometimes I'll run the 1-6x24mm Raider, and sometimes I'll run the T2 or the SU231A. As for my pistol, I always run a G17 with the X300V on the bottom with the threaded barrel and then the carry comp on top. As for the gear, let's start with the helmet. I run the Sentinel because I believe it's one of the better looking helmets in the game. I run it tan. I always have a helmet cover on, and then I put a strobe, a battery pack, a flashlight, and then the ComSat 3s. And then for NVGs, sometimes I use the PVS-31s, sometimes I use the GP NVG-18s, but generally I stick with the PVS-31s because it looks better. As for my vest, I either use a CVS or the MPC. Where is it? Right here. I usually switch between the two, and then I usually run the exact same setup. So a radio on the left, 3 pouches on the middle, 1 GP on the left or on the right, and then pistol, a US flag. Sometimes I switch it out for like a GP pouch if I'm doing something like quote unquote international, but yeah, usually US flag and then a tourniquet. As for the backpack, I usually use a slick pack, the hydration pack, or the E2 med day pack. Sometimes I use a M9 med pack, but not really. As for the belt, I almost always run the operator gun belt, and then I make it multicam, obviously. And then I run the 6390 RDS on the right, and then I always set up the back of my belt like this, a 9022B in the middle, bleeder on the right, and then a GP on the left. And then on the left side, I have a 556 mag pouch, and on the front, I have a M17 pouch and then a 565 PRL. As for the uniform, it can change from time to time, but it's usually like the flannel or like the AC combat, just those generic operator uniform things. I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
Hello, I am BRM5 and I am the leader of Task Force 1949, and this is my uniform slash loadout. Actually, I have 2 uniforms I use. This is kind of my main combat one, and this one over here is kind of meant for more dress style slash when we're doing kind of RP moments in the task force. But I'm going to be going over the main combat one I use. So this is kind of inspired off of our Special Forces unit, the 10th, which uses the G2 combat uniform, the MPC vest, the Maritime Ballistics helmet with the quad nods from the Shadow Raid Game Pass, as well as a setup with the got the Tomahawk melee, as well as a belt here with some medical equipment on it and some rappelling slash climbing gear on it. And yeah, all skinned wonderfully to Varicam and green on the helmet. As for the primary weapon, we have the MK18 or the Mark 18, whatever you prefer to call it. I set it up as kind of what I've nicknamed the generic operator rifle, because it's kind of how most people stereotypically view a weapon used by operators. But we got the ER Mag 30X, the generic Bravo stock. We have the Assault foregrip, which I prefer using the foregrip rather than the angled one. Muzzle is the SOCOM 556, or suppressor, as you can see. Device on top is the AN PEC 15 for laser. I got 2 rail covers on the side, make it look nice. As for the top setup, we have a ACOG sight with a canted 1X sight that allows to do both long range and mid range combat. This is kind of a rifle setup that a lot of people tend to run on their AR style platforms in my faction, obviously varying between what kind of muzzle device to use, what kind of grip to use, and mostly what kind of sight to use. But stuff like kind of how it's set up like this, especially mounting this on the top, is a very common theme people do in the Task Force. And secondary is basically just the M17 with an extended mag. Not very fancy, it's just used to be whipped out in order to, as a last resort, in case the primary is out of ammo, take out an enemy, switch back to primary, reload. So yeah, that's it.
My kit is kinda ranger based, but with some personal touches. I run a Mark 18 with an older tan EOTech, front irons up and rear folded. A tan PEC 15 on top in front of the front iron. Pressure switch on the left aligns with the PEC, however used for tack light. I run a WMX200 tack light on the right, as far forward as possible in tan. A short SOCOM can in black, as well as a ship flap grip. Bravo stock and Stanag, cause Stanag is that OG. Also 10.3 inch barrel with that short SOCOM is for good use in CQB. Color scheme is standard. For sidearm, I run an M17 stock with an X300 for lighting. It's nice and simple and decent. Ranger green uniform cause it's fucking hot. Decent camo but still looks nice. Green maritime to match, and the rest is very cam cause it goes well with it. NPC cause I like that thick cummerband. 3 times mags front without flaps cause I need that easy access gunfighter shit. Radio on the left, which I would hook up to a PTT, but of course we don't got one. Admin pouch right cause gunfighter don't got room on the belt. CAG rabbit killer patch cause it's got a tiny Aussie patch if you look close, and a tourniquet plus EPI to finish off. No pack cause it's lightweight gunfighter. Black rigger's belt because I'm lightweight CAG. 2 very cam M17 mags front left, a very cam P mag left for quick reloads, a cheeky retention lanyard for me to clip into helicopters. Back left is a dump pouch for dropping mags and other shit, easily accessed by my left hand and doesn't interfere with movement. Blowout pouch center rear because I need something for the medic to heal me with, and a bleeder pouch on the right rear for me to heal others. These are both on the back so they don't get in the way, all in Vericam by the way. And to finish it off, I got a nice tan solid belt holster. I know the M17 doesn't really fit. To finish with, the maritime in green. Nice color, rocking ear pro, eye pro, PVS 31s cause lightweight, ComSat ear pro plugged into the radio, battery pack counterweight, strobe on top for the air to see me, and some nice white light for when I need to see or direct people without night vision.
Alright, welcome to my TED Talk. So, first up, uniform. I'm trying to go for a civilian attire. So, flannel. Also, I just love the look of the flannel, and I like that it's a limited time item. You can't ever get it again. Anyways, moving on, melee. I use Halligan bar because, in case I'm ever in a CQC situation, I can use it to pry a door open, something like that. Holster. I don't know, I just prefer a thigh holster over a belt. Belt. Speaking of belt. So, first up, I have the dump pouch on the left side. So, if my weapon is shouldered on my right shoulder, I'm reloading with my left, I just put the empty mag inside of the left dump pouch. Front, I have a generic pouch just for, admin stuff. I have all my medical here in case, I'm downed or something, medic needs to turn me over, and then I have a pistol mag and a tether. Tethers for if I'm in a helicopter or something like that so I don't fall out, Moving on, we have the vest. For the backpack, I use a hydration pack because I like to pack lightly. I don't like packing heavy, but in the case that I do pack heavy, I would probably use a day pack. As for the front of the vest, I use a sling for my rifle. I have blood type for any medics. The patch is not really necessary, I just like that patch. I have a radio, 3 mags, and then a generic pouch for more storage. and that's pretty much it. Helmet. I don't use night vision unless it's required, because I would like to not have neck problems. You know, if it's a day operation, I'm not going to, I'm not going to have night vision on for obvious reasons. But if it is a night operation, I would usually use the Sentinel, Intel Ballistic, or the Maritime Ballistic, just because those are the 3 helmets I prefer, and I can put flashlight on, I think, most of them. So I would also have a battery pack in the back. First up, we'll be starting with the stock of the weapon. I use the E1 stock just because it has quite a lot of padding that would be useful in not messing up my shoulder whenever the time comes I need to mag dump or give suppressive fire into a hostile area. Compared to all the other stocks I've seen to the HK416, this one seems to have the most padding. Another reason I use this stock is because the length of it is to my liking. Instead of using your standard Maritime 30X magazines, I use the Polymag ones since they offer extra gripping whenever I'm reloading. Moving on to my optics, I use the 6x LPVO sight with a 1x optic on top of it. I use the 6x scope because I find myself in a lot of mid to long range encounters where a magnified optic would be most suitable. In the scenarios where I'm forced to use a 1x scope, I can easily switch to that too. I have my LPVO sight moved up the rail slightly so that the rear of it is aligned with my rear folded iron sight. For the barrel of my weapon, I use a 14.5-inch barrel for good velocity, range, and firepower. I pair this 14.5-inch barrel with a slimline handguard since the slimline is able to fully encase the barrel while still having the rails necessary for the rest of my loadout. On my top rail, I have an SRD pressure pad so I can easily turn my flashlight and lasers on and off without having to adjust my grip at all. It is very important that my pressure pad is on the top rail so I can easily wrap my left thumb around the barrel of my gun to press it down. I also have another folded iron sight at the end of the rail in case my optic stops working, as well as added weight to negate recoil. My right rail has an ironclad laser. The reason I have an ironclad and not your regular PEC 15 is because an ironclad being set diagonally from the rail distributes the weight of it away from the right rail and more towards the bottom rail, which will help negate recoil as well as prevent the weight of the gun from being too heavy on the left rail due to the M95 2V flashlight I use on it. I use the M95 because it's not too large and not too small, while still emitting an effective amount of light. As for the grip I use on my bottom rail, I use the Gunfighter's short grip so I can wedge the front half of my gun against different types of cover, and so I can wrap my hand around the barrel of my gun easily to reach the pressure pad on top. Last but not least, for the end of my barrel, I use the QDSS NT4 suppressor. I use the suppressor so that the recoil is less by adding weight onto the end of the barrel, and so the enemies that are getting shot at don't immediately know what direction the contact is coming from. Just a disclaimer, I understand that most of the functions of this weapon I have listed are not able to be used in the game of BRM5, but I made this weapon under the assumption that it would be comfortable and effective to use in real life. Thank you to Dudis for featuring me in his video.